Swindle, the applicant and owner, and Brandon met on the site. And essentially what we did was using a tape, as we talked about, taped off to the 25-foot essentially, and we ran a flagging, if you will, across that area and up through here, and then we also used various points on the site to establish a 100-foot buffer zone. And then we went through and taped off all trees that were above 5 inches. Myself and Chris did a count, and then myself and Brandon essentially did a count, and we came up, it's difficult to get an exact count when you're walking through the woods and pick the trees, but we got basically a range of approximately 55 to 60 trees. That was what we came up with.
Yep.
So as part of what is in this, now is in this narrative, obviously I just learned those numbers yesterday, so I'm working as diligently as possible on this. I did include those numbers in this report, and a majority of those trees were red maples, and there were fewer numbers of white ash, black cherry, white pine, black birch, yellow birch, and there was one sassafras. So those were the trees within the buffer zone that were, again, were above 5 inches.
Those are the ones you're gonna plan to take down.
That,
Need to
right,
take
that will
down.
cut down,
Yep.
yes. And as a side note, 2 of the trees included in that count are actually beyond the limit of work. There are 2 large white pines that are concerning from a safety issue if they were to fall this way. They're very large, and what we would propose to do is to just cut those and not stump them, so we wouldn't have any earth disturbance beyond where we're putting our erosion control, but we are proposing to take those 2 trees down, and they are in that count, so we have
Yep.
thought about them. So essentially, just a update of what the avoidance, impact, and minimization and mitigation is essentially, again, we've kept the impervious area, essentially the roof and the parking area outside of the buffer zone. And again, we've added the infiltration area, so we have infiltration outside and treatment outside of the aura, and then that water then discharges into the basin. So essentially we have a basin in the aura, and that's all we're essentially proposing. So what we're proposing to do then, as we go through that statement as mitigation for those impacts, there are a few things. We found approximately 7 invasive plants on the site within the aura, those being honeysuckle and barberry. We also found a pile of junk, as it's referred to, in this area right here. That includes some various dumpings. We counted 4 tires, 4 barrels, a pressure tank, various plastic pipe.
In the buffer zone or outside?
This is in the
Yep.
buffer zone, yep.
Wetland indicators,
What, PVC pipe?
wetland indicators, tires.
Yeah. A steel basket of some sort and some chicken wire, just sort of various dump. Old farm stuff. Yeah, type deal. So we found that as well, and Brandon witnessed those things as well. So those were things that were part of our mitigation plan. And then essentially what we're proposing on this plan and what we have as a revised plan for you tonight is 20 trees. So if you look, right, the row starts right at the buffer zone and goes all around the entire limit of work here. And we're proposing 20 trees. We're saying red maples or approved equal, and I actually have a plant list of readily available plants that, you know, Brandon can look through, you guys can look through and see what you feel is best for the site. Certainly red maples obviously would be, but if we wanna mix up the species, we're happy to do that. So we have 20 trees and then 40 shrubs. So we did a 1-to-1 for 20 trees and a 2-to-1 to basically make up for the shrubs. So we have 20 trees and 40 shrubs, essentially. And then we have the cleanup of the junk pile, and we also have the cleanup of the invasive species within the buffer zone as well. So we've proposed those as mitigation measures to work within our limit of work. And a conversation we had on site, I'll just bring it up, just to bring it up, is should we try to intersperse some shrubs? Because there's not much of a undergrowth layer in this 25-foot area, and we kind of determined that you've discussed that before, and that's not necessarily great mitigation in terms of putting it in the forest. It's something I've done elsewhere, so I figured I'd bring it up, but, and again, we would do that, but if it makes sense from the commission's standpoint to really just stay within our limits of work, we're happy to do that as well. So that's really what I felt were the points we left with last time that needed to be addressed, and those are the things that we tried to do as part of, you know, this sort of final plan or what we accomplished on the site visit as well.
Brandon?
Paul, do you have, your field notes when we were there, you had so many trees, 5 to 10, so many
Yep.
trees.
I have that too.
Can I see that?
Yep.
I think that's of use to the commission too, because
I have that, well, I have it
a
as a
fi-
handout
you
too.
know, a
if you wanna
40-inch
look at it.
tree is a little different than a 5-inch tree. Right, so they have 25
Give this to
trees
you guys too if you want.
of 5 to 8 inch caliper, 20 trees of 9 to 12 inch caliper, 9 trees of 13 to 16, and 7 trees of 16 inch plus. The biggest tree within the buffer zone, well, there were 3 big trees. The 2 that they wanna cut down because it's leaning towards where the
Construction is.
construction will be in the future. And there's another one, a big white pine tree that was 34 inches, and the 2 that are within the 25-foot no-touch zone, the ones he wants to cut down, are about 40-inch. That's my guess. I have a 36-inch caliper, and you couldn't get it around. So those are the numbers on the trees to help you quantify. That's the impact part of it, and then there's the stormwater part of it, which any other site construction work that I'm sure Bob will wanna talk about. But that's what's up for discussion now that we have some numbers, so you can better quantify, so you can work it in your head and try to figure out whether or not what they're proposing for mitigation is adequate to offset any potential adverse impact to the wetland. So, we've got 55, was it 55 to 60?
Yes.
55 to 60 between 25 feet and 100 feet, and 2 within 25 feet that are about 40 inches apiece.
Those are in that same count, those were part of that.
Oh, they were?
Yeah, they were.
Okay,
And
so,
that one's rotten, he had pictures of.
Yeah, one of these, especially one of these, this one that's closest, that's leaning in that direction has a pretty well rotted out area in the middle of it. It's a large tree.
so, between 25 and 75.
And Chris mentioned, and I don't know if this is something that the commission or Brandon would even think was good, but, you know, we could cut it at a certain height if it made sense, if that created
I don't think that makes sense, because it's a
Oh,
pine.
it's a pine.
It's a pine, so it's not gonna regrow from you know.
Well, no,
yeah,
but it'd be a snag potentially. Wouldn't it?
I suppose it would.
Just for, you
It
know,
would be a dead tree that would be rotting, yeah,
woodpecker.
which has a value to
Animals or
it,
whatever.
but I personally think that the live one should be given a chance to live out its life cycle, but especially if it's within 25 feet, which is the generally no-go zone for touching, but now it's up for you guys to discuss. I'm glad that I'm not making the decision. It's you.
Is there any way to leave that?
One last sort of note on that as well is, I did mention last time, but I'll just re-mention is, so basically everywhere where this basin is, which is essentially the work in the buffer zone, we're not gonna plant, just like a grass mix, it will actually be a native seed mix, so that has, some legume type, grasses and different things in it that do provide some wildlife habitat as well. And again, the water, before it even gets to this basin, is treated, so it's, in terms of, you know, wildlife, they certainly can use that area, and they may use it where they don't now, even.
So
They'll have to.
so when a woodchuck starts boring a hole in the side of that basin, you're gonna say, great?
Woodchuck, yeah. Let's see,
They need a place to live too.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, stormwater basins go, and my opinion is that a lawn has no wildlife value. Robins picking worms out of the lawn don't count. This is different, it's gonna be, mowed, maybe once a year?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So you're gonna have some kind of wildlife conservation mix on it.
Yep.
So it has some wildlife I wouldn't say it has the same wildlife value as a mature forest. Detention basins, I think, can have a wildlife habitat component to it, especially if it's a wet basin and you have wetland plants growing in it, if it's designed that way. This is gonna be a dry basin,
Yeah, it will dry out.
so we'll have a bare bottom, or we'll still have
Oh, no, we'll have
grasses.
it'll have those same grasses.
It'll have
in it.
grasses, you
Yep.
know, so, you know, for example, the big basin at, Pleasant Valley Crossing, it's supposed to be a dry basin, it's a wet basin. There's frogs in it, there's all kinds of stuff in it now, so it has some wildlife value, but dry basin, not so much. You know, how do you proportion how valuable a wildlife seed mix is on a stormwater structure versus a mature forest? Maybe quarter of the value, maybe, as, just to throw it out there. If you wanna, you know, working it out in your head.
How far apart are the trees, give or take, the plantings you're proposing?
How far what?
Apart are they?
The trees are about I think it's 16.5 feet on center. I basically just took the perimeter and
Yep.
divided it, and then I have 2 shrubs in between each of them. Some have 3, depending
Yep.
on the arrangement.
Are the trees at the base of
They're
the-
at the toe of the slope, essentially, yeah.
Do you want that? Because once they get mature and they fall over, they could potentially affect the integrity of the slope. Would you maybe wanna put those?
Well, you certainly wouldn't want them in the slope, but if they're at the toe of the slope, and if they fall over, I mean, I think you'd have to maintain it, but I mean, you shouldn't, like, you don't want things growing on a dike.
They're right at the toe of slope, eventually they get to be this big and then they fall
Not
tip over.
relative.
I don't know, I'm trying to imagine things, cause I, you know, with dams, you don't want trees on dams.
Right.
You really don't want them at the base of the dam either, I don't think. I would personally, I would move them to be more along the 25-foot.
That's where they are.
They are, that's where they are, any place
Oh,
else, you don't have a
right,
choice.
You got them right up. So where are the shrubs going? Where are the
Between.
shrubs going?
Well,
In between the trees.
what would happen if we made the basin infiltration basin?
It is an infiltration
So
basin.
there'd be no loam or anything in the bottom, the water won't stay in it, so technically it's not a pond. So now you could put the shrubs, if you wanted to, on the outside slope of the basin in that case, wouldn't you?
I mean, I don't think in general, sort of like he was saying, like dam safety in general, they
Well,
don't
that's
want
why,
things.
if it's an infiltration basin, it's not intended to maintain, to hold water.
Yeah, it should be dry within 3 days.
Yeah, so, and the amount of water that's gonna be going in there is negligible, because it's only what's, the overflow, I think, I haven't looked at the drainage, it's the overflow coming from your, underground
That is
infiltration.
correct, yes.
So and it's a gravel site, so I, you know, in practicality, I don't see it ever be, particularly if you don't line the bottom of the basin.
Yeah, if you maintain the basin and you know, even that native seed mix, that should dry up pretty
And
quick.
what's the detail for the berm? I mean, is it a core?
What's that?
The detail for your dam, so
Yeah.
to speak, if you,
Yeah.
if you wanna call it a dam, is that a core, or is it made completely out of
Yeah,
glacial
like-
till or clay?
Yeah, that, yes, silty, sandy silty material, so the whole thing just kind of packs in.
I was thinking that if you wanted to make that a core, then technically, I think you could plant those slopes and then spread out your bushes and then make the whole thing look a little
I mean,
nicer.
I think you
that's
can
all.
maybe put some shrubs on the side slope, you know, not
I'm not
trees.
talking trees, I'm
And I
talking
think you
shrubs.
could put shrubs, and I've done this, and these type of shrubs could absolutely be planted in this basin, without a doubt. But I don't know about on the berm, I would probably not. I don't know if the reviewer would go for it either, but in the basin, I've done, and I could do, if we wanted to just create space, so to speak, for these things. We could do that, cause all of those could be inundated for short periods of time, all those species.
I think it'd be preferable than to have a row, 16 foot on center, and then have a shrub every 3 feet in a line around the whole thing. I mean, I don't see that working well for any of the shrubs. One, they're gonna be shaded half the time, not getting the sun that they need to grow, and they're gonna be crowded, and so, it'd be nice if you could spread them around some.
Well, I could put some in the basin, obviously not. I could probably put, I'm guessing 3 clumps of 3 at least, so you're talking 9, maybe 4, so 12. That would, you know,
What about the back slope? And I'm not trying to argue with you, I'm trying to offer
I
suggestions.
guess I'm just not totally sure that I could do that, is my concern.
Well,
I
I-
wouldn't
I-
wanna affect the integrity of the.
No, I understand your concern on the fill side or the downhill side, but the other side's a cut slope, isn't it?
Are you speaking, on the inside of the berm here,
No, next to the building.
right here?
No, the building, that's the parking lot, right
Right
there.
there.
This is a fill slope as well, right here. So what I'm saying is I could put plantings all in this area right here. That'd be in the basin. And, you know, I've done that before with these type of species.
Thank you.
And it works with that seed mix, and it
I'm not gonna argue with it, it can't be a fill slope, it's a cut slope.
goes from 94 to
I
88.
know, and the building is at 94 too, so it's not a berm as such. That's the grade that's surrounding it, isn't it, on that side?
It's
What's the elevation of the building?
94, 394.
So you come out like this and you're cutting down to make the pond.
Well, the existing grade is not, so, yeah, I guess I'm looking at it as you're filling, because.
I understand that, but I'm looking at it, I don't see that as a berm, is what I'm saying.
It's not, right, it's not part of the basin.
So if it's not part of the basin, you could put some shrubs on that slope, I would
Would
think,
you be
without,
okay with that?
without having a problem with,
Right, so in terms of stormwater management, this is not part of the basin.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So
I agree
you
with
could
you,
spread some
yes.
bushes out on that, then.
Yep.
Well,
I'll
hold
keep
on,
it up.
hold on,
That's in the buffer zone.
it's in the buffer zone?
Yeah.
Alright. As long as soon as it's outside the buffer zone, it can't be.
And
it's
here
not
is,
spread.
not, when you get to this very edge it isn't, but you can see the buffer zone come through right here, so I could add it all right in here, and I could add it all right in here.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could put, you know, I could move,
A dozen.
yeah, I was gonna, yeah.
A couple of dozen, I
dozen.
mean, 20 of them, 15, 20, I mean, it's just rather than stuff them all in
No,
one place.
that's
I think
fine.
if we agree to a number,
And we'll
I
just
think
put it-
that's really what we want, and then if I'll move as many of those around to spread them out as I can.
Well, it sounds like you could put up to 12 in the bottom of the basin and a dozen to 2 dozen on the cut slope. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I'm trying to look at this plan and see what groups of 3 would look like, but I would say that's approximately, I would say at least 9 in each of those cases, so let's just call it 20 could be in those areas. So half of the shrubs could be above and half could be at the toe of the slope. Now you're talking 1 shrub in between every tree rather than 2. So I think that's a good
So
thing.
then you have 1 instead of 3. Okay. I just have a couple of general questions, just to get it on the record.
Yep.
I'm seeing the impact avoidance, the complete impact avoidance and minimization for the first time right now, and I wanna ask you a couple questions. On impact avoidance section, 1C, it asks you if there are any other properties reasonably available, but not currently owned or controlled by the applicant that could have been used to do this project. And you write that, the abutting properties are not owned or controlled by the applicant. It's not necessarily the abutting properties, it's any property, anywhere in town that could have been used, as opposed to this one, so you could stay out of jurisdictional areas. Are there any other properties that you've researched or seen that you know are available that could have been reasonably obtained?
Not that I'm aware of. Not in the OLI. I mean, there's this and there's lot 9 at the end of Gilmore. I think that's, I mean, off the top of my head, I think and that one's a huge lot. I mean, you're putting a massive building on that lot.
Okay.
So and I think
But
if you
you're
were
also-
to find a lot that's not occupied, it probably is closer to the wetlands, to be honest with you.
No, see, that's the kind of answer we need, like lot 9 on Gilmore Drive. That's available, but it's not the right size. It's a huge lot. I'm not looking to do something that big. It'd be a waste of time and money and space and everything, right? But also, what's the zoning here?
OLI, office light industry.
Right. What other parts of town could you do this in?
Not a lot of them, I don't think. I mean, I don't know the zoning map by heart.
I just wanna make sure that you've done some kind of search.
I mean, Chris has been looking for
Oh, yeah,
land,
for a
and
long
this
time.
is what he was able to actually find.
See, this is what I need to know. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. And then over in minimization section, I just wanna know if, as far as, the big limitation seems to be, well, you want a building of this size. Why can't the building be a little bit smaller? What are the restrictions on that? Why does it have to be like it is? Why can't it be any smaller so you can pull things back? It can be as simple as it's not economically feasible, but I need to see it, say it on record.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the applicant has proposed a minimum project size for practical and economic feasibility. I think that's sums it up really.
So it has to be at least 9 units, or else it's not economically feasible. Can't be 8 units, it can't be pulled back like another 10 feet, so it's a little less squeezed.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at, if you recall, when we came in, we actually had 2 different buildings, and that one was actually closer. It was still 9, we looked at trying to do 8 with different configurations, and this was, I mean, we went through many exercises, and this was the one that got us where we needed to go, but kept us out of the buffer zone as much as possible with that area and minimizing impacts.
And this particular design of stormwater system, given the soil conditions you have, there's no other kind of design that could have made your footprint smaller?
Yeah, so
Why?
no, I mean, I think doing the Coltex that I did do was able to make this work, so meaning that took volume away from having to put the basin back there. It limits the amount of water that goes back there, the water's treated before it gets back there, so.
Right, so stupid
that was
question,
all.
cause I'm not an engineer. What if you put in more Coltex and increased your footprint there? Could it have led to a situation where you didn't need as big of a basin, or even need a basin at all?
Well, the soils were starting to change a little bit as you move towards the back, so, I mean, I did the
How
testing
so?
and they're not as good as you move to the back. They're still not bad maybe, I guess I would say, but they're better, and you run into a elevation where you look at this test pit right here, and we had 64 inches to groundwater. These we had even higher, like 32 inches, so you're moving into it, and actually that's what happens is with the soil category, there's an A that kind of soups in the site, and then it's B's towards the back as well, so that's what I did, and I talked it through with the reviewing engineer, and that was what we basically did to maximize everything.
the questions I have on impacted ones and minimization. So I guess, you know, I see Bob gearing up.
No, I asked my questions already.
Then you're up, Joyce.
So you going to leave that big tree back there?
It's rotten, leaning towards the.
Well, that's one of them,
Oh,
and
which
there's
one?
another one.
There's 4 big trees. There's a big oak tree, which I originally thought was in the buffer zone, but we pulled tape, and it just makes it out. So that one's off the table, it's coming down, can't complain. There are 3 big pine trees. One's about 34 inches, and there's 2 within the 25-foot zone that are about 40 inches apiece.
Yeah, those are right here.
Right.
The other one's probably like, I don't know.
Yeah, about right
here,
there.
so.
Yeah, I agree. So the 2 that are in the 25-foot zone, one of them's got
Leaning.
some, looks like it might have some heart rot, and the other one's leaning towards where the building would be built. So you're asking to either pollard it, which is like cut it halfway down, or cut it outright. So, you've got the issues with the, you know, do you think the mitigation is enough within the area that they want to do the majority of the work, between 25 and 100? And do you think that they should be allowed to cut down, or at least cut halfway up those 2 trees within 25 feet?
If they were to fall, would they hit the new building, proposed building?
I think they would. They're leaning that way.
You know my opinion on trees close to building, cause my day job
Well,
doesn't
right,
like them.
the trees close to existing buildings, so the building takes precedence, right?
Sure.
This is a building that hasn't been constructed yet, so perhaps the tree gets a little more deference. That's up to you.
They're pine, it would be a little different if they were hardwoods, but.
If they weren't leaning that way, I wouldn't even be talking about it. Rather than come back after, I'm asking for it.
Yeah, we tried to put everything on the table just to,
It's easier.
yeah.
Okay.
Cut 'em.
Any other issues? We already knew your answer on that.
No.
Are you insuring them?
No.
I just wanted to say thank you. You hit all the items that we mentioned last meeting, and I'm happy that you're building in Sutton and not Millbury for tax purposes, so thank you.
The only thing I've got is there anything to prevent the lovely plow fellows from pushing the water into the basin?
There's a guide rail closed there right now. It goes around this whole area right now.
Great.
I mean, it's not a direct shot at
Yep,
least.
that's, anyone from the public have any comments on this?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 219 Whitens Road with the junk, tires, barrels, etc. removed, the invasive honeysuckles removed and maintained in perpetuity. Is that right?
You're getting pretty good.
I recommend pollarding the 2 big pine trees, if you're gonna go that route. They're not gonna present a risk, and they'll still have wildlife habitat value.
It's fine.
I think that's a good compromise.
Pollarding?
Pollard,
Should you have a measurement on that, like where to?
halfway up. Is that all right?
Whatever we can reasonably.
Yeah, whatever you could reasonably reach.
Yep.
At approximately a reasonable reach.
What is reasonable? 10 feet?
Don't hold the chainsaw over your
So
head.
I can read.
No, they'll be left up with a machine or something, we'll cut it, or whatever, we'll figure it out.
20 feet?
Yep,
20 feet.
Or 20 feet?
Minimum 20 feet.
Minimum of 20 feet. And 20 trees and 40 shrubs planted per the plan and our discussion tonight.
Well, the plan isn't finalized with their locations yet.
The amount is final, right, but we'll try to disperse them.
So you're gonna do a, approval contingent upon them getting a revised plan showing the new planting layout, or you wanna do it another
Yeah.
meeting?
No.
Wouldn't it be better for them to just approve the amount and let them figure it out and they can give us where they actually
Well,
plant them?
at general locations, we're talking about a dozen in the bottom of the basin, right, so?
Yep.
And a dozen to 2 dozen on the cut slope closest to the building. And then maybe 1 between the trees, maybe.
Yeah, I thought we said like 20 in, cause
There'd
there's 20
be
trees,
20
so-
total up in that area, so we're talking like 10 and 10 or a dozen and a dozen, so 2 dozen, somewhere in there, 20 to 25.
I personally, I don't like to keep it that open, because it causes kind of a nightmare to me as we get closer to 21 days and I gotta write this thing up.
But the total will be 40 shrubs and 20 trees, doesn't change regardless, their location is the only thing that could change. And it behooves Chris to put them where they're gonna grow anyways.
And will you get a revised plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Or before the pre-construction meeting.
Well, no, before you have to issue the order conditions, a lot easier for me to issue the order conditions when I have
With
a
a
plan
final
that's already
plan.
done.
Yep.
For being issued a plan within the 21 days. Is that right?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
I'd like to see how that, with all those come up. Bullets.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
13 Ramshorn Road?
Make a motion to waive the reading of 13 Ramshorn Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi folks, Lance Anderson from Heritage Design Group. I was last here, March 7th,
Why didn't we sign
and
this
we
first?
revised our plan.
Excuse me, give us just a minute.
Oh, I'm
They're
sorry.
telling me I'm going a little too fast.
'Cause we forget to sign things if people start to, you know.
Relax. Sit back.
Have some candy.
Have some candy.
Hi, Matt. I can't sign the drawing. Doesn't exist.
You might have to restate who you're working for.
All right.
Big changes.
Who you're working as. So I write it down, so and
Oh,
so
he's gonna
represented
give us a revised.
from such and such company.
Well, I'm still representing the Heritage Design Group plan.
Okay. Yeah, this is.
This might be the last job under the old
I'll
company.
tell you what, then we'll just call this a heritage job,
Right, I think that's how
even though
we'll do it.
technically it's an Allen engineering job now. But,
These
I
ones
know.
are just getting,
You know,
Mine's better than
yeah. I do.
Have at it. Thank you.
Lance Anderson from Heritage Design Group. I was here, March 7th, and we presented our plan for 13 Ramshorn, and I've come back with a revised plan. We've moved our, seasonal dock to the center of the lot.
Excuse me, if you got another plan that, or is it in here? I might have it. Usually I do. 'Cause I gotta hand it down that way.
I haven't seen any revised plan, is this a revised plan?
Yes, yep, you should have been sent the revised plan. Week after March 7th. We've extended the erosion control, up to your 200-foot, riverfront.
Excuse me, Dan?
Yep.
This is February.
Not a revised plan.
Rip-rap slope, 222/18.
Hold on a second.
No, I don't think I do.
Number 6.
Yeah, it was sent.
You don't have them?
Wanda, do you have any other plans for this project?
No, only what's in the file.
Coming from Eric, is that?
Well, this was dated February 12th, let's see.
Yeah,
original
February
drawing.
12th.
Yeah, that's the,
Quite a few times.
that's the original, the first date was 2/5/18, and this second was 2/22/18.
I have 2/5 in my records. I don't remember getting a hard copy or an email of anything more recent, which is why it could have not gotten sent, or maybe Wanda
That's all I have.
distributed.
You have another
I
copy
don't
by
know.
any chance?
I don't.
All right, gone?
We extended the erosion control up to the 200-foot riverfront. You asked for erosion control around the catch basin on Ramshorn. I've got a proposed riprap slope on the backside of the garage, in the northern side of the garage. And we had discussed the access to the slope, to the site during construction because of the steep slope. So we have put in a 8-foot wide temporary ramp for the machinery and a landing area to get the machinery down, and that was our changes to the plan.
You said you did something down at the end of it
Move
also?
the dock.
The dock needed to be centered
Set
on,
up, yeah.
centered on the existing lot. Again, the erosion control came up to the 200-foot catch basin. You asked for erosion control around the catch basin, and the slope
Okay.
is riprap on the garage. And our access. And we'd like to phase the construction house first before we do anything for the garage, because we don't wanna open up.
Parking, accessibility, it's a private dead-end road.
Mike,
I've worked,
if you're gonna talk, you gotta stand up and identify yourself, which you're gonna do now.
yeah. Mike McGovern, the general contractor for the project.
Thank you.
It's not really the engineering, it's just, I have to build it. It'll be easier if we don't really install erosion control, leave it as is, just leave it for parking like it pretty much is now, it's vacant land. Obviously, everything implemented down in this area, start down, work our way up. Once this is all done, stabilized, I don't know when exactly, but we'll do it in the construction schedule as an update when I know better as construction weather, how quick we can get this back together.
Makes too much sense.
That's all I had to say about it, just if we could, we do that first initial site meeting, that we'll have that lower section all ready to go.
You also had asked for, that we lumen seed, and that's what we're gonna lumen seed, the areas between the erosion control, as soon as practical, to stabilize. And that was about it.
Bob, you wanna take,
According to my notes,
that's
as
it?
I recall. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to look at the drawing.
Would you like to pass that over, or you think it's?
Send it down, send it over. Was this in February that this came in first?
March.
He's hit
March
every
was-
snowstorm perfect. Okay, The all guy right, that I'm okay, trying to
all
work
right.
for, I'm not kidding, it's canceled, I
Yeah,
think twice.
we missed
Literally,
3 in a row, yeah.
We actually last night and said the sun was out.
I had 9 notes from the first meeting. I know we just went over, let's do it one more time, just to, about
Yep.
Bob reads. Okay, number 1 was, how will the equipment access the area of the house, cause there's a
Yep.
retaining wall there, you're gonna have to put in any kind of
They got that
temporary
covered.
fill. Okay. Extend the limit of disturbance all the way, up to the 200-foot mark. Alright.
Up to the road initially is what they're proposing, and then when they do the second side, they'll do that.
Erosion controls around basin and next to road.
Got it?
Tracking pad, 1.5 inch stone Marafi.
3-inch stone on the excavation.
On the tracking pad?
Yes.
Erosion controls up
I
there.
originally proposed 3/4 inch, and then Bob says that's a little small.
Yeah, we went
So
big.
we went 3 inch.
We went
Oh, I
3.
thought you, okay.
So we did go
I
to
thought
the
you
big,
said
I agree,
3/4,
3
sorry.
inch
That's
is
bigger.
much better. The 3/4 just ends up actually
At some
tracking the
point, they
entire.
get stuck in the treads,
You're right.
too. Yeah, that,
The 3-inch ones get stuck between the wheels and get you.
well, I just tell you, if they get caught in the tread, then they're gonna be down the road,
Yep.
and people are gonna complain.
To me,
Yep.
don't worry, they all know me.
show the low wall at the road?
The wall's gonna be removed.
Okay. Rename the erosion control barrier the limited disturbance.
Well, actually, erosion control barrier is on it's 6 inches off the property line, but using all the space that we can.
Right, did it get renamed limited disturbance? I mean,
It has to be the limited disturbance because that is the property line.
It's just not labeled as what he's looking for it to be
Oh,
labeled
okay.
as such.
right. That was I remember Bob made that suggestion. I mean, you can go either way, it's just when you read the, standard conditions, it'll say the limited disturbance is, either marked or it's at the erosion control boundary, so.
Erosion control
But
do
it,
it.
which is fine, but it's nice when it's clearly labeled, that's all. Relocate dock to be at least 25 feet from the property line, or centered if it's less than 50
Did it.
feet total. Detail on the dock,
Yeah, 55 by 30?
That's all that there is there. It's gotta have the markers on it and
reflectors on the
reflectors
ends.
and.
Meet all the
yeah,
regulations.
Meet all the
What is
regulations.
the total square footage? It's what, 55 by 30, you said?
150 square feet,
I think it's 5 by
5 by 30,
5 by 30.
so that would be 150 square feet.
That's plenty.
No, yeah.
Under. Okay, how far does it go out?
30.
Yeah,
That means, I got it right here.
what, 30
Yeah, we-
times 5?
I always forget. No further than 30 feet into the water, so it's right at 30.
Yep.
Correct.
No larger than 300 square feet, so you're good. The 2-to-1 slope next to the garage can't be lawn too steep. What'd you do on that again?
Rip wrap.
Riprap, okay. Detail on the driveway infiltration area.
Yeah, the info.
You got it?
Yeah.
That's everything.
On here, there's an existing dock, is that gonna be removed?
Yes.
It says existing dock.
It's a
I know, I asked the question, you said it's the details on the drawing. There's 2 details on the drawing for erosion control. I assume you're gonna use the one that has a silt fence on it, as well as the wattles? Cause that's what we would prefer in a situation where it's this close to the lake and stuff like this, the double protection just,
If
because
that's
it's
what you
location.
prefer, that's what we'll do if the general contractor on the side of me says that's okay.
Just a question, and it always comes up at the site meeting when the installation of the hay bales.
No,
I know it's a
No
simple-
hay bales,
I mean, I call everything a hay bale.
You can't help
Gotta get used
yourself.
to wattles or socks or whatever we call them.
12-inch.
And as we do all different types of work around town, all different kinds of projects, and I seem to do a number of them, we deal with the different types of wattles. You know, on the smaller, tighter jobs, we're really close to the property line, and we use the sock with the burlap bag. They're very delicate. They get bumped, they get touched, they're really easily compromised. They all have to be cleaned up. It's an ongoing battle. And at the end of it, in a few months, it's really hard to clean up. I know that the protocol is always to the burlap decomposable, and I'm sure that that's really good in some instances. But in this particular project, I'm not saying it's a must, it would be easier if we could reuse some of the wattles from down below, up above. We have to clean them all up, we're not in any, there's very tight lot lines. If it's possible, and we could use there's different types of nylon nets, as I did a little quick on the internet today. There's black ones that are what they call, everything will degrade eventually, it's just how long.
Can't be photodegradable,
But
biodegradable.
what I'm asking is for something that's actually meant not to decompose, and it's actually meant to be reused, so it would help. This hay bale currently costs about $6,000 to install on this single family project. If I was able to reuse some of it when I go across the street, we could make a horseshoe down by the edge of the water, like across the front, and maybe come up 10 feet with the sock, cause that's gonna be there for the longest time. It's the sides. You can see from the plan, we're real close to construction. It would be easier, cause sometimes when you're digging, you just roll it up, you move it out of the way, you work for the day, and we do, we put them back at the end of the day. We're gonna get it stabilized, we'll be able to take some of these when we go across the street, reuse them, especially around the catch basins where they're removable. It's in a parking area, it's right near the street, it would be easier to maintain them if they weren't biodegradable sock. Like I said, I can do it with them, we've done it on many projects. It would be more economical, it would be easier if we could have some leniency and be able to use a non-biodegradable, water. In conjunction with the sock type, closer to the lake.
Mike, I noticed that the biodegradable socks that you use have the white cotton on the outside, and they are more delicate. They make some with actual burlap that is a lot sturdier.
I've used both. When I did Point Way, I've used both. I agree. The type that today that when we did an inspection, was a newer guy. We had trouble getting them. Another thing is not that we can't find them, not that they're not in stock, but there's many dealers and no one stocks them, but very particular people, and a lot of times they don't have them in stock, so they're harder to get. So sometimes they are a little different. This particular type of sock that's fully biodegradable was even less.
I just did some research on that, last week after the meeting. Wanda gave me the list of the suppliers, and I got on the phone and called them. And Prescott's have them in stock all the time. S&M Farms, I just have the list here.
Never
Buried
said
it
we
somewhere.
couldn't get them.
But in Auburn, guy in Auburn said, oh no, they don't carry them. And I said, okay, I'll take you off our list. And a half an hour later, he was calling Wanda and saying, we're gonna carry them now, so don't take us off your list.
I could just tell you this week, we just waited 2 weeks to get them. We called
Well-
around several places, they weren't in stock. Stock varies every week, in this booming economy that we're in, and I don't mean just silk fence, everything is a problem as far as supply. So whether it would be the nylon or the burlap, I think supply and demand right now isn't.
Prescott's told me they could have anything within, they have them from New Hampshire, he said he can get them in 24 hours. So, that's the research I did on the list that we were passing out.
I know that the owner of Groundscapes Express lives in Sutton, and he has brought him in his pickup truck on his way home to construction sites.
I never said we couldn't get them.
Mike, I think Mike's looking for a yes or no, on if he can use something else. Right, is that what you're?
Correct, yeah.
That's
To,
what I'm
to
asking.
basically
Right.
reuse.
And
across
decide
the
with
street.
Mike, when I did my
Usable
project on the lake, it was about a 6-month start to finish, maybe 7, and I went to pick him up and it took 3 or 4 days to rake it all up, so I understand his aggravation. Because I used the cotton ones, they rotted and, but,
That's the whole point, is that they're supposed to just be set it and forget it.
right,
Because when you do the nylon and you forget it, it ends up making a mess and ends up being a nuisance. They're even I think they're still a nuisance even to wildlife while they're there in place.
if, as a commission, if someone were to use something else, could we put something in the order conditions that it had to be picked up within
I
a
think
certain
you're
amount of
opening a
time?
can of worms if you're gonna allow one person to do it and not the other, so I would not be for that. And I think the advantage of the biodegradable over the others, because, you know, before we started going to this, you'd go out and you'd see the hay bales all rotted, and the plastic would be underneath, and it had been there for years, and it was a real mess. So I think the 100% biodegradable is the way to go. And you can get some that are project just down on Stevens Pond, they had a black covering over it that I think was a little
I promised
firmer now.
myself I wouldn't make a debate tonight. I just simply asked. We would not have the same opinion, so I don't even want to go there.
We know where you come. You don't want to cause any more money or any more time for people, and I agree with
I
that.
think that if I was in the woods and I was gonna leave this system in place and it was something that we were never gonna pick up again,
Different story.
100% different story than what I'm asking.
Compromise.
Let's poll the audience. Well, I guess you can have your compromise. Go ahead.
No, hold the audience, by all means.
No,
Hold
go-
on, I would
no.
love to see.
I was talking about this audience.
You're not done. Yeah, go ahead.
Your thoughts, Bob?
I think Mike's got a legitimate point, and so is around a house where they're definitely gonna be removing them.
Mhm.
You know, as long as it's not a trap for the little critters running around, which was the other concern that we had, right, Joyce? As long as it wasn't a trap for little critters running around, I don't think it has to be biodegradable. If it's out in the woods, it's an ideal thing, it helps the contractor, it makes everything run smoother. It is, biodegradable does require more maintenance, because they do break up and you gotta keep putting more pieces out as it goes along. So they are more expensive to maintain. So, I mean, particularly in this case here, and the fact that they're gonna be using silt fence in addition to it, I don't see a real problem with going with something that's not biodegradable.
So, my compromise position. Mike, did you work on 31 Carroll Lane?
I don't think so.
You missed
With
that.
the black
Black,
tile?
that's what I was saying, yeah.
So, they put up a black, I think it's photodegradable, wattle, but it's not the mesh, it's real tight knit, so it's a
Diamond sock.
diamond sock.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, it wouldn't have any, danger to any kind of critter getting stuck in it, like the more open mesh vinyl would have. And I think it would be, longer lasting and be easier to pick up and move because of its being, you know, the plastic material, whereas opposed to the burlap or cotton material that might rip apart.
I don't know if we're asking for the same thing, I just know that the diamond netting one, wattle, 12 inch, we can stick with the 12, I believe that's what we like to use. If it's the same thing, yeah, I mean, we're on the same page, it's a wattle, they're all biodegradable at some point, some of the meshes are 1.5 to 2 years, some go 5 years out, from just looking on the internet today. Once again, I was looking just, not for the black plastic one, the readily one around here, it's like a green color, I guess if they rate the plastic by colors, from what I could see, maybe I could be off, but.
I think you can buy any of them, it's what you choose.
Yeah,
to
so I
get.
could get the green one, I knew the black, so from what I could see, the black plastic one was the more permanent one. It had almost, like, it doesn't biodegrade, but the green one had a 1.5 to 2 year period, which would give us plenty of time for a year-long project. I could assure the board, I know that each case, and we try to be consistent, but like I said, for this particular one, we will definitely be cleaning this up. It will never get to a point of being ratty, any vinyl left behind, that's all I could say. Just would be a little bit easier on this type project. Like I said, it's not a must.
What was the name of the one you suggested, Brandon? Or somebody
Mr.
confirmed?
Kuchar just told me the kind that he used.
I had to use a diamond sock, cause that's the only one I could find.
Yep.
12-inch with the mulch inside,
Yep.
1,700 pounds, with no machine to put it in place, we had to cut it into 12-foot lengths. Yeah, real easy to work with, Mike.
No, it doesn't sound it, it sounds like it's not the one to use. I just want the simple standard stock one that everybody has that I wasn't
The
looking.
sock that the commission prohibited is the open mesh, vinyl sock that does not, open and close, it's, what do you call it, closed, it doesn't expand or contract. So the problem is that the critters get in there, especially the snakes with their, the keels on their scales, they get into a certain point, they get too thick for it, then they can't back up. They end up dying, and other critters can get in there and get stuck. I've also personally seen chipmunks have an easier time getting into that open mesh and getting in there and having a ball and messing them up. And I think that the closed mesh, you know, the solid ones are, better for keeping the little critters out of it.
It could be a debate, cause I've been putting them in.
And you wanna get this done tonight, I bet.
You know, down in the truck, and I didn't bring them up, but I have actual cut sheets of all the different wattles. Do you want me to send my wife down to get it and just get a cut sheet that shows the green?
I would like
It
to see this
explains
get
all
done
about
tonight,
it, it
too.
says it's a 1.5 years, and then it would, I know that's the stock one that's around it, if that makes it simpler, we could probably run down real quick and grab it. Would you mind, Alyssa? That
What?
little folder in the truck with all the.
Oh, you want me to go get it?
Could you please?
I need your key.
What else we got on this?
Yeah, dude, nothing.
Anything
while
on
we're
the,
killing time here, Mike, I called S&M Farms, and I'm not advertising for them, but I've used them, and I asked them on 200 feet for 12-inch biodegradable versus non-biodegradable, and they answered the same thing. They're all biodegradable, just to the extent. 200 feet for the one that Town of Sutton likes is $150 more approximately. So it is more money, because I was thinking, geez, are we making people in town spend $10,000 more?
75 cents a foot?
Yeah, ballpark roughly. So it is more money, but if you could reuse them, I don't personally have a problem with that. And on a lot like this, if you could condition it that they have to be picked up before it's signed off.
Well, it's
But
gonna
the
be
critter
long
thing-
before it's signed
Not
off.
to get into a debate about the critter thing, but I tried to find some kind of anything other than us just saying it out loud. I don't find anything of any study, this is any proof of any harm. The only thing I found an article on was that if it wasn't picked up, the straw was to be gone, and the black plastic has a pretty nasty reputation for animals to be able to get entangled in it.
Right.
But as far as like intact, workable wattle that was designed to be out in the environment that we see used everywhere, I couldn't find any actual studies or any information that led to anything that said that it was dangerous for animals.
I have.
Now, they do advertise the stocking, the one that we like to use here, uses as a selling point, I found, that they say it doesn't happen, but a company's always gonna advertise the positives. We're not gonna argue that mesh could tangle, but if it's done right and in proper conditions with a good contractor, I don't see that we'd have any trouble. I've found mice to make burrows, homes in those socks. I've personally picked it up with mice running out. Right at Point Way and last year when we cleaned up the hay bales. So either ones I think make mouse homes, I think are susceptible to the rodents, but the biggest thing I found with the sock is it doesn't hold up. It doesn't take well to any type of dirt touching it, people touching it, and on close quarters,
And that's the whole idea of
what?
that they break up, they fall apart,
That they don't withstand construction?
in how long?
Instantly, like honestly, like so we just had a site inspection. My site's meticulous today with all these socks come back in 3 weeks. We'll do a hay bale inspection, not to be spiteful. When we're done digging a cellar hole backfill and we'll see the condition. Let's not, I don't wanna get this far in it. If it's,
Yeah.
I'm happy, we'll do it the way we've always done it. It was simply just asked, that's
Mike,
all.
is this the green sock you're talking about?
No. There's no end to this. Like, there's a million different kinds. You could spend all day on the internet.
You wanna spend all
Here's the
night.
black one that I wouldn't use because in talking with it, Black said those are the ones that deteriorate.
That was the old one.
The most. Then you get into burlap, some of them use metal, that's hazardous to the animals, the best is the sewn one with tags. I mean, there's no end to hay bales, and here's the burlap ones here.
Waddles.
This was the one I wanted to use, right here. It had a breakdown period, but it would last for construction. I put a lot of time and thought before I asked. That's the one I'd like to use, that type right there. It just will hold up a little better than a burlap sock or a cotton sock. It wasn't to be difficult, it wasn't to try to.
That's the one we don't allow.
Because that's the one that's readily available,
That's
it's
the
easy to
one,
use.
that's the one with the mesh.
Correct.
Brandon knows.
But this is reusable, this doesn't fall apart, this will withstand construction at close proximity to construction.
Yeah, that's the one that's. What is the mesh, what is the sheathing material made of? Is it made of?
Something that would degrade in a year and a half to 2 years if it was left out in the woods. but it's
Is it like twine or like?
It's yellow, it's green plastic, I'm sure it's diamond plastic. It's gonna withstand construction, it's gonna hold up.
Like Joyce said, that's the town that's not allowed. But there you go.
Well, it's not, so another thing, I asked about this, like, so this is up to the discretion of the board. This is not a law, this isn't a bylaw, this isn't anything other than policy, I believe, which is, I'm respectful to that. But under certain conditions, it should be up for discussion. I firmly believe that's what a board is for in a public hearing.
That's what we're doing.
So just let me know if I can do it or not.
So far, it's no on that one.
Opinions, that's what we're,
Yeah.
that's what a board does. I'm okay with it. I respect that. I do. I do.
Yeah. We're not fighting. Is there another one in there that might work better? Bob's sounding in that, yeah, it makes some sense, but we're burning daylight. There are other people behind us. Strong feelings one way or another?
My feeling is, as a responsible contractor, I would let them use the mesh that can be moved, but that's just my opinion. I'm a hands-on person, I did the project myself, so.
And there are several of them that can be moved, and now we gotta pick one.
Right, that, as far as picking one, I mean, you'd have to pick one that's readily available, and I don't know if we could decide that tonight. But I agree with him on getting something that's more durable than the white sock one, or the one I used.
Like to keep the cost down for people, and if you could move them or use them, it'd be great. If there's something that we could come to a kind of a happy medium on here, I'd be fine with something a little different than. And if they're not holding up past 3 weeks, then that's a problem. If that's the case on any of them, which means if they're not holding up after 3 weeks, then they're not doing the
I
job.
don't think you could sell them if they didn't hold up, but 3 weeks. No good answer?
No good answer.
I would say that even those straw ones with the mesh stuff, you know, once they get wet, they don't last too long either. And I'm against any of those with a mesh. So I'd say no.
And I'd go with you on this.
Yeah.
I know it's shocking.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it sounds like it's no, or you continue until you can find something
And
that can be
I'm sure they don't wanna continue.
Well, so what
But
I'm
let's-
proposing was the cut sheet that I gave, so if that's they only, so there's biodegradable, there's the green plastic and the black. I went with the green, it was more readily available, it did have somewhat of a biodegradable to it, so that's what I was proposing, so if that's no, then, but I thought it made a lot of sense, it would,
Well, it doesn't
it's not
sound
even
like
about
it
the
would-
savings, it was more of the practicality of the construction, and that's the fact.
Yeah, well, it sounds like he opens the conversation up, it doesn't sound like it'll be no necessarily in the future, but it's just the timing of it all, and maybe coming up with some kind of compromise, wattle for the future, and you can help to set that up for future.
Compromise doesn't, that's not what this was about, this was just about practicality of construction, it's two different kinds of wattles, it's super simple, it seems to be getting very difficult to me. It was
Anybody
simple.
else got anything to say on this? Not trying to cut you off,
Yeah,
Mike, but
no,
I'm trying to
okay,
move it
yeah,
on.
I agree.
Anybody else wanna comment on this while we're at it? No. Sir,
Probably gonna stick my foot in my mouth. but
identify yourself first, then stick your foot in your mouth.
It's Mike Kuchar.
Yeah.
I own property at 31 Carrier Lane. And I went through this same thing. Those wattles weighed 1,700 pounds and we could not get a machine down there. And we had to cut them all so that 3 guys could carry them down. They have the mulch inside, I'm talking about the diamond soft.
Yeah, that mulch is heavy.
They're very heavy.
Yeah.
You know, you were down there. I think in my situation, and probably the job that Mike's doing, it's in front of the house. They're not gonna leave them there. If one breaks, I'm sure Mike's gonna change it. I've known Mike for many years, he's not gonna let that go into the water. I say, you know, keep an eye on it, go down and inspect it once a week, every other week. I'm sure Mike's gonna take care of it. I'm gonna do the same thing in my house. I got a 3-month project, and if one breaks, I didn't need 110 feet, but I got 40 feet in my garage. I'll go get a section and I'll fix it. It's common sense. Mike doesn't wanna get into a lawsuit, he's gonna fix it. He didn't just get off the turnip truck, he's been doing this for many years.
One of the big things with the nylon mesh was the critters getting stuck. So then you have to think, well, is this a kind of a site where you have a high probability of critters getting stuck? I will say, in Mike's defense, in this situation, that answer would be no. But then you have the bigger problem of changing policy on the dime for one person.
Yes, that's the big.
Right.
So if we can find something that would, in the future, be a better fit, then we could change to that, but
I have a question. When do you plan on putting these wattles in or down?
When would you have the order of conditions so I could record it and how many days from that?
Yeah, right.
I mean, this is the winter
So-
really,
Yeah,
this
It's
isn't
fine.
the kind of project, I mean, we didn't wanna hit it first thing in the spring. Actually, the delays are probably a good thing, cause it's wet. One thing I know down there from being the fifth home on this street, it's not always the best place first thing in the spring. We were gonna let it dry out. So I would like to get at least the ability to be able to start it once we were ready to, but
Well, my
I would say
question was,
within the
if
next
you
6 weeks.
were to get approved tonight, and you could find some kind of material that wouldn't hold up an approval tonight, you're not putting them down tomorrow morning. Cause I'm open for,
Well, I I don't mean to keep going back, but that's the only other, so it's
Okay, I
either
didn't-
the diamond sock with the
Okay,
green
I didn't know
or
if there was
the
some-
burlap. I mean, those really, I mean, other than, we're not gonna get the hay bales, that's going backwards in life, and those bring seed to, like, those were horrible, it's so far advanced from that. It's just, to use some removal, to just summarize quick, it's just to be able to use some removable wattles that are not biodegradable, that could, I guess, potentially, if they weren't removed, as the straw decomposed and it became more of a vinyl thing. I think all Mike was trying to say, now your question about Carrie Lane, not to jump around, but I'm not doing that project. Mike's a friend, but I have nothing to
Yeah.
do with anything, just so you know that. So it's just a matter of it would work well for this project, we move pretty quickly, we do them on the lake. Timing is everything, because the quicker I can get it back together and stabilized, believe me or not, I sleep better at night, cause it's a lot of responsibility when you take on these lake lots that are cliffs down to the water, and I have taken it really serious over the years. We've done quite a few and had no problems at all. So it just would be, alls I was asking for the ability to use something that would've made it a little easier and a little better. It wasn't about the savings, it wasn't about availability of a stock. It just was about a construction method that would've made it easier for us. With better results as far as a stronger fence and the abilities to manipulate them in the course of a workday. That's all that was my only ask, that was it. It wasn't to try to eliminate something or start a new precedent, but maybe on a project like this, 3 and 4 feet from property lines and that, not to become standard protocol, but that if somebody was in the same position and,
I'd love to have an alternate.
huh?
I'd love to have an alternate, not prepared to say, this is what we can do tonight, just,
Maybe the next one then, I
Yeah.
think that was mentioned, so if it's gonna be
Yep.
a sock this time, at least maybe it started a discussion for the next
hmm,
one.
thank you.
Cause it's possible, like I said, I've done many,
Hmm.
these exact criteria, it wasn't something that couldn't be done.
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 13 Ramshorn Road.
Second?
Based on the drawing dated, that we haven't seen yet.
Yes, yes, he has
gotta
to
leave that
provide
one here.
drawings,
We'll leave that drawing
current
there.
drawings.
Based on the drawing as dated as of March,
It was about 2/22/18.
as of February 22nd, 18.
Second.
Is that, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You wanna stamp this in?
I'm good.
Either one?
Just,
Oh.
the engineer, could you initial that, please?
And I'll,
I just crossed this off, all right? I can't do that without the initial.
I'll, send this to Brandon too, and I'll eliminate this. Okay?
Yep, okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
send
And
one to,
put that this is to be removed. I don't know if that's anywhere on there.
they wanna.
And I'll send a new,
Should've taken the time.
I'll send a new plan to.
It was Bill
Bill
and
and
Andy.
Andy made the motion.
Bill made the
No,
motion.
Bill made the motion.
Bill and Andy.
Sign this one.
Yeah, we should. And this file needs to be read in.
Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 4th, 2018, at 7:30 PM at Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Gianni Romeo of Sutton, Mass. Project consists of construction of a single-family residence with associated site work on map 42, parcels 32 on 274 Putnam Hill Road, Sutton, Mass. Welcome. Sorry
Thank
for the
you.
delay.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Steve Brissette. I'm with Sutton Engineering out of Oxford. This is my coworker, Nick Kondick. He's also worked in this project as well. What we're proposing here, you people, I think, are familiar with this site because there was an order of conditions
Plans?
issued on
Do you have
a
any
common
plans? Sir,
driveway.
do you have any plans for us?
I sent plans. I don't, no, I don't have any extras here. No.
You also
I
have
apologize.
the green card.
No, we might have it right here.
Oh, yes, we have the green card, yes, and the receipts.
Dated March 19th, 2018.
Yes.
Did you need the engineer's resume or something?
Yes, I'm on next time.
Engineer's resume or something?
Yes. Do we have your resume?
Normally, first time you present, normally, first time somebody presents in town, we've asked for a resume or something on your credentials.
Oh.
If you could send that to us if you don't have,
Certainly.
that'd be,
Okay.
thank you.
So you folks are familiar with this property already because there was an order of conditions issued in 2016 for the common driveway to service these 3 lots on Putnam Hill Road. So what we're here for tonight is an order of conditions for lot number 6, which is the lot furthest to the north on Putnam Hill Road on that common driveway. Lot number 7, lot number 8, we're not doing any additional works within the adjacent upland resource area, so we have not filed for those 2, we have filed just for 6. Now, on lot 6, it's a 4.5 acre piece. On the plan, you're gonna see a limit of work. This is the original work limit that was proposed on an overall concept that they provided to you when they did the common driveways. We have not deviated from that. We've actually reduced it down up here on the north end. The driveway on this particular lot is modified slightly, only because of the grading for the leach field and the height and things that it had to be at. The original driveway was proposed in here on the common driveway plan. We've skirted a little bit closer to the resource area, but still within the work limit that was depicted on that original common driveway plan. We got a private well over up on the upper side, soil absorption system with an expansion on this side, septic tank, the usual. There's a wetland in the back as well. All this delineation was approved on the order of conditions that was issued for the common driveway. We have had comment from Brandon that some of the flags are missing, non-readable, and need to be refreshed. We'll be glad to do that. We'll get that accomplished. There's approximately 30 trees within the AURA that are gonna be taken down in the course of this. Because of the site being heavily wooded, and the septic being here, we proposed a few in here. However, we're also tonight gonna be reviewing lot number 9, which is over here. And we've proposed to do a majority of these plantings in the AURA on lot number 9. And I don't know how well that's gonna work for you, but
Not at all.
this is a heavy forest. This over here is an old field as far as lot 9 goes. That's why we chose that was a better place to plant a number of
don't allow
trees. Okay,
The lots have been broken out already.
excuse me?
The lots have already been
Yes, they've been
Deeded
approved
out,
at
yeah.
planning board, yes.
deeded out.
No, they are all still in common ownership. Any questions? I did actually, we did prepare kind of an overall concept of the 4 lots. This is lot 6, this is the one we're talking about right now. 7 and 8, and this is lot 9. This is the one where we proposed the majority of the plantings It's on the detail plans of lot number 9. You know, again, it's the same wetland area.
It's all under common ownership right now. Brandon
I don't
will tell
know.
us, but
It's all under, yeah, it's all owned by the.
it's all under common ownership.
Common ownership, right.
Yeah.
So, we did the common driveway, which is shown in white,
Correct.
back, what, 2 years ago?
Believe it, yeah, 2016.
2016 is when the order conditions came out. And things that I remember, was JH Engineering at the time.
Correct.
And they originally had the septic system for lot 6 within the 100-foot buffer zone. And I said to Jeff, you know, there's a Board of Health regulation, and so he tweaked it, so now the leach field's more than 100 feet away. And I can see how lots 7 and 8 don't really need any further permitting because all the disturbances is at least 100 feet away. It was only, those 2 lots, it's only the common driveway that needed permitting. Lot 6 is certainly, it's in a forested area, and it does show a plan with all the trees to come down. It's about plus or minus 30 trees. For lot 9, did you do that? I'm focused on, I got the lot 6 file open right now.
Okay.
So how about we just focus on that?
That's fine.
So I see that some of the trees that proposed for replanting are in areas that are already forested.
Correct.
They put it in the understory.
I don't believe so. I think anything that we've proposed to
if it's in
plant
that-
is in the green.
If it's in
open-
that green area, but I see, trees to remain, sorry, proposed deciduous tree. So you have 30 coming out, and how many going back in?
From what I can see on this plan, on this particular lot, it looks like we put 2 to avoid being where the leach field area is.
So you'd be replacing with 2 trees. Does that work?
These 2 here?
That's why I asked about the common ownership. They're proposing to put the trees up at lot 9.
Correct. Which is not a heavily wooded area, and our proposal on lot number 9 is to put them all along this area of the driveway.
Much like a wetland replication, there's some discretion. And it's gonna be up to you. The rule, for example, on a wetland replication is that the replication has to be along the quote-unquote same hydrologic stretch, which means it should be closer rather than farther. I think that you should look at this in the same kind of manner. Do you think that the lot 9 is close enough to what will be lost on lot 6 for it to matter? Is it too far away or too close to matter? That's up to you.
And that's why I would ask you if they're hydrologically connected.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily hydrologic. When you're just planting trees in an upland area, there's really no hydrologic connection. You know, it's just the concept that the mitigation work should probably be done closer than farther away. And the rule so far has been that the mitigation work has to be done on the same lot as the permanent disturbance. Does the common ownership matter to the commission? Do you see that as a violation of the same lot policy? Or is the common ownership?
It's gonna go away soon.
Yes.
It will, so, alright, so think about, alright. So let's say lot 6 and lot 9 get sold to different people, and the person on lot 9 is responsible for planting the trees that came down on lot 6.
Well,
But yet the person on lot 9,
They'd have to go up before that.
they'd have to go up before that.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this on the west side or the
Yeah.
east side of the road?
Yeah, it's on
It's
the
on
west side.
It's the part where they haven't built anything yet.
Correct.
Reverses trees, but
See, like the property lines, like right along this point, and along here,
Mhm.
instead of putting in
Yeah,
trees,
we-
we can do some
Sir,
Sure.
well, most of us know you.
I know, sorry, I was just talking to.
No, you have to identify yourself.
Okay.
So you're not gonna identify yourself?
Yes, I'm Gianni.
There you go,
Anthony
thank
Jones.
you.
Address.
I just had a question and a concern. Instead of moving them to lot 9, why don't we put in some shrubbery along the boundaries on 6, 7,
And
and 8?
split it up a little bit more evenly amongst all the lots.
And we gotta get over the,
And
whether we can
dispersing
do
it.
the
No.
multiple lots or not. It sounded like you're not winning there.
I agree. I'm just telling you what
Yeah.
his suggestion
Yeah.
was, and I'm putting that forth to you as well. I mean, obviously, you know, what we try to avoid is, we try to avoid trees around the leach field area and the slopes relative. Could a few more be put around on 6 more than 2? Sure.
Yeah, but we're looking for 1-to-1.
I understand that. You know, again, trees in the forest, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, we've got there's plenty of upland back here on
It's,
lot
it's
2 as well.
heavily wooded.
I mean, it's heavily wooded. I mean, if you look at the orange spots on the plan for lot number 6, I mean, you know, they range anywhere from 8 to 10 to 20 feet apart. I mean, they're all over the place. It's pretty well wooded.
I have a question. On lot 6, that rough triangle at the top, where you wanna put the well,
Yes.
what are you gonna use that area for besides getting to the well?
I just figured it was all gonna get disturbed and messed up in the process of A, building a house, B, installing a well. Figuring that was all gonna get disturbed, and that at the end it would be lawn, and we'd put some trees back into it. You know, that's,
Okay, it's just, we got a 1 to 20, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm doing, I'm pulling, I'm measuring from flag AF 17 to the limit of disturbance. And we got about 22 feet. Commission prefers to keep all disturbance at least 25 feet away.
okay, again, I held the limit of work that was previously approved on the common driveway plan. That's where it was. We have the digital files from Howland, Engineering that depicted that. I mean, I didn't move it. I mean, it is where it was on that plan. Now, yes, I
have a
agree.
little insight on that. There was no limit of work proposed around, accepted for around the house. What Jeff did is he showed the house locations conceptually, just to see that they could be made. Because there's no point in approving a common driveway if in the end you can't get any houses, right?
True,
So
true.
we had him put it in.
I understand that.
And he showed that, yes, it could be put in this general area, but the permit was for the area right around the common driveway, not for around the houses.
I agree.
Okay.
However, this limit of work association here was to do with the common driveway. I mean, it was one continuous line on the plans presented to us from Howell.
Well, not, we're splitting hairs now, I have to go back
Sure
to
we
the
are.
old plan, and
Sure we
take a
are.
look,
You know.
and exactly how far. But in
I mean, if you would like to see a 25-foot buffer there, we could adjust it as such.
Yeah, and I just wanna know, why it is you needed to go up there, and I understand what you're saying. This is among the questions we asked about regarding impact avoidance and minimization.
Mhm.
Okay, so then if you're okay with that explanation, they're gonna be cutting down, 30 trees and replacing with 2 in one?
Nobody's satisfied with that.
Yeah. And it doesn't sound like putting them all on lot 9 will help things.
Okay.
What else can you do?
Well, like I said, I mean, I can increase the density of the plantings up here around the well, and I can do a little look and see what kind of room we have on this little, there's quite a large patch of upland area over here.
What if you were to have that upper triangle around the well as temporary disturbance, because there's gonna be no way to avoid it when you're doing the construction.
Correct.
It's gonna be a mess, right? But when you're done, you keep your that'll be like a temporary limited disturbance. But when you're done and the well's installed and you grade the land back you create your permanent limit disturbance closer to the house, and then do your plantings in that north,
Yeah, that's kinda what I was.
that north, and that way, you let that grow back as woods.
Yeah.
That would give you some more room for mitigation.
True, true. And that's kind of what I was alluding to as far as, you know, we can increase the density of the replanting up through this area up in here. And if we had, you know, we obviously split a little bit down here towards the front.
Yeah, and I see
Yeah.
you got common grading between lots, 6 and 7. It's gonna go right between the house with the 2 septic systems.
Right.
But it's still all within the 100 foot. So it's like, maybe you could replant some kind of a hedgerow
That's what I was saying.
between the two,
That's
which
what I
is
was saying.
something I don't really always recommend, cause people like to put the plantings along the property line so they're not in the way of a view, but that's not the case here. So, that would be something I would recommend. I like the idea of restoring that northern triangle and keeping the limit disturbance, I don't know, like 20 feet away maybe, let's see.
Don't we need to know what the trees are?
Yep.
Do we know the species of tree?
The ones that are being coming down, are these all 5-inch diameter trees, or are they 24-inch diameter trees?
They're on the plan. Do you have it?
The
Skip?
caliper
Or
is on the plan.
Caliper's on the plan.
And then they're either deciduous
So
or.
that's what the number, okay, this is the, right there? Is that
24,
It's
36, 36.
You got 3, 4, 36-inch trees. Those are big boys. So.
Is there any other remediation to be done on that lot?
No.
No invasives, no,
Just the tree work.
No invasives or trash
No,
piles
it's,
or?
it's a clean lot, forested, no invasives, no farm dumps, nothing else that really is an encumbrance.
There was that potential vernal pool.
I've been there twice already and haven't been able to find enough to certify it, but that was part of this,
Yeah,
the
the driveway. I remember we were out there.
Right, right, and that's on the back of lot number 8.
That's right, and I still haven't been able to find anything to be able to certify it. What if you were to do some plantings between the 2 houses in the 100-foot AWRA, maybe make a permanent limit of disturbance 15 feet off the north end of the house on lot 6, and then put trees like the normal distance is like 15 feet on center. That way it gives them some room to crown out.
Yep.
At least, you know,
Okay.
maybe some shrubs in the understory.
Markers.
Maybe they eventually get to a point where you think that there's enough balance.
No, I agree with that. I agree with, I was listening to the gentleman before us and, you know, his numbers on trees and shrubs versus trees coming down. We could definitely make something balanced out that could please the commission.
It may be missing, there's no erosion control shown in the drawings, that I can see.
Yeah, there is, and actually, in the submittal, there's a second sheet that shows an overall conservation.
This is the only drawing I think we've got, so
I might have been holding back on you.
Well, there's a proposed
Modest
ECV,
goals.
black dash line,
Yeah,
and there's a lower left-hand corner, there's a detail facilitation barrier, which is a combined silt fence, straw wattle.
Is this the other drawing you were talking about? It is, Bob?
yes, that is the other. It emphasizes the planting plan a little bit better. It also has the details for lot number 9. The same drawing is included with lot number 9.
detail around the well, don't you, Brandon?
Yeah, sure, sump hole. And are you gonna, well, the house is outside. No, the house is within the 100-foot, right?
Yep.
Do you have any, dry wells for the roof or not?
We did actually discussed that this afternoon.
That's something, when you're within the buffer zone,
That's what you wanna
AWRA,
see.
they looked at for that, yes.
Okay.
What's the tree species? Anything else? So you just have, you don't name species, you just got proposed deciduous tree and conifer trees?
Yes.
We
Yeah,
need-
we
we
figured
need-
a list could be agreed upon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
need all
created-
native species.
Okay.
What was supposed to be done,
You wanna see?
Bob likes it, I do.
Oh, maybe they would like to, I don't know.
no, we passed that.
You know better.
Was there supposed to be something done with the road coming in? Was there what was supposed to be done?
Replication area or
I'm
something?
trying to recall on the road coming in.
Yeah.
There was a wetlands that was supposed to be built.
That was the other side of the road, it was the replication area,
This area,
Oh, on the
this,
other
this
side?
side avoided
the
barely,
replicate.
but they avoided the wetland.
The other side, I'm not sure about the status of the replication area, but that's,
Well, it's getting to be spring, I'll stop by.
Go to the sea.
Put it in now?
No, is that what it was?
Come on.
You told me that something in a month. The farm that bought it.
What do they do in the wild? That's it, those are the concerns, dry wells on the house, I would like to see the proposed ECB also be labeled as limit of disturbance.
Okay.
And then a matter of mitigation and plantings, and my suggestion is allow 15 feet on the north side of the house to be lawn, and then the rest of it, once it develops each fall, revert back to nature and do the plantings, some plantings in there. And think about some plantings between lot 6 and lot 7 within the AWRA, or ever else in the, within 100 feet that he can fit them in.
are there any signs required?
Yeah, the rest of, there's no signs, good call. And the straw wattles, as you just heard,
12.
12 inch, 100% biodegradable. So on the signs, every 50 feet, or say every 50 feet and where there's a change in angle of the limit of disturbance.
Okay.
And there's also, you ever put in a detail for a handicap parking sign? Two inch, 2.5 inch galvanized, 2 cemented, aluminum placard, affixed a certain way, cap.
Okay.
Use the same thing, except with buffers inside.
With what, I'm sorry.
Buffers inside.
Okay.
I can give you some information on that.
Okay, that'd be great then.
And still, please, refresh the flags.
We will, absolutely.
Be ready for the next meeting?
Sure.
Need to close or?
Make a motion to continue to April 18th at
7:30.
7:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anything else that,
Well, just-
When you have the updated plans too, ideally get those, 1 week? So, a week from today, if Brandon could have the revised plan, it gives us all time to review, so.
I'll make sure I bring extra
Then
food
if
for
there's
the board.
comments, they can go to you before you come in.
Perfect, thank you.
Special pen.
On the trees you plant, that'd be 2.5-inch caliber.
Yes, I did read that. Thank you.
Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 4th, 2018, at 7:45 PM, Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Gianni Romeo, Sutton, Mass. Project consists of construction of a single-family residence with associated site work on map 42, parcel 97, on 290 Putnam Hill Road, Sutton, Mass. Welcome back.
Thank you. Okay, we're on the same site, we're just a little further south. This is actually lot number 9, this was the one lot that was excluded off the common driveway. Actually had nothing to do with it at all. What we have here is again, the same wetland delineation that was approved as part of that order of conditions, is shown in here, AE series, AH series. And there's a break in between, just enough room, barely enough room to squeeze a driveway through here.
Good work.
So we're proposing to put a driveway through here, and there's actually a crossing detail. There's 2 small segmental retaining walls, probably, 2 rows of root block type retaining walls in here. We got a cross culvert appropriately sized to go underneath there. We got our erosion controls. This plan, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees in here that are gonna come down in the AURA. However, we've got about 30 trees replanted on this particular plan because of the situation we have.
I bet you're
with lot
gonna
number
revise
6.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna move a few. They're gonna jump. Actually, I don't have a copy of the second plan. That would be the other plan that you had earlier. That actually has a blow-up detail of this crossing area, and I don't have that plan.
It's
We're kinda all going in different directions. Brandon should have that plan. The second sheet of this one, which is the same second sheet that was on the previous one.
Did you get a second sheet, Bob?
That was the one that
Feels like it
I
is.
think 2 or 3 is just details in the buoyancy calculation table, which I absolutely do need.
Okay, and then you have that
But I
one.
have this one.
Yeah, that is the one.
This is the drawing you're talking
The
about?
last one, it's all,
No.
Or this one,
No, I believe it may be the one he has over there.
which is the same
That's
as
part of the
before.
this is part of the septic plan.
This shows us,
Yeah, this is the one right here. And, again, this is, was the overall plan showing the plantings where they were
Glasses
gonna,
can open here.
but this does have the detail of the crossing with the inverts and the sizing of the pipes and that kind of stuff for this particular crossing that we're planning. I call it a crossing, it's not a crossing, but this particular, entry area on the driveway in this particular area.
what's that crossing doing?
It's this driveway right here.
And it says connecting this wetlands to this wetland, is it
Yeah, it's just
filling
to
in a
make sure that
stream?
water no, there's no stream there now, no.
So it's connecting one wetland to the other wetland?
Correct, if it should ever need to be.
Yeah.
equalizer pipe.
Yeah.
We asked for that when they came in for the other thing.
Is this big
No,
ledge
the-
out back there?
The only upland area is
Really high, cliff-like.
where the septic system is? Small portion.
Yeah,
This is
majority
it.
of the, yeah,
This is the only upland area right here.
correct, correct.
And this is all,
That is all in the AURA.
Let's
So here's
go
a
down.
question I have. What's the boundaries of the existing field? Where's the wood line?
We delineated that, didn't we show that on here? No.
It does show it on that plan as well.
Oh, it does, so?
Alright, it's shown on the conservation plan.
Okay, it's in here, yeah.
It's almost in here too, I could say, it's just kinda cut off by the other details. The septic tank, treatment train. Yeah, okay. So basically what you're gonna be doing here is you're gonna be putting, first of all, same general comments as the last one, culture with the roof runoff and all that. Signs 50 feet along the limit of work. Now, limited work is gonna be also your limit of lawn.
Correct.
So, when we have fields, old hay fields, people think because it's already a field, let's start mowing. That's not gonna be the case, we're gonna have to put up the sign, and every thing past that is gonna be different. Just like with 289 across the street, the commission allowed the applicants to cut their historic field up to twice a year, as if it was a hay, you know?
Okay.
I don't see why you couldn't continue to do that here. But you would need what we call limited use, limit of disturbance
Okay.
around the field to show where an owner could cut a couple times a year if they wanna keep it open. Right?
Okay, fair enough.
Not during the nesting time.
Right, there'll be limits on what times a year you'd be able to do it,
Okay.
just like on 289 across the street. But I don't see why that wouldn't be something we could, the commission could entertain.
Wonderful idea.
Brendan, do you wanna look at your 25-foot?
Yeah, I got one here. And I put it. Well, of course, at the entrance it's tight, but then it widens out. Right, so that's the only way in without filling in wetlands. And they get grading right up to the wetland boundary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how that's really avoidable,
Well,
unless you wanna have them put in a retaining wall or something
Well,
like that.
I didn't know if extending that retaining wall that's already there a little bit and maybe shifting the road a little bit away from it.
Well, you do have retaining walls in there. That's just
Yeah,
proposed.
you know what, the way that they're in, they kind of,
Yeah, they circle around.
they circle around, if you're not looking close enough, you just mistake it as another topo line.
It's just that 25 foot has been
Yeah.
a serious matter, and I don't think we can look at it lightly and say that they,
Well, like I said, even if it's wetland all the way across the front, they could do a limited crossing for a single-family house driveway with replication. In this case,
so it's right
they're
here.
able to get in without having to fill, which I think is great. You're gonna put in an equalizer pipe, that's great, you're gonna put in a retaining wall, so that they don't have any fill in the wetlands, the slopes. And then as they continue on, it stays a little closer to the south side, but in general, it gets further and further away the closer you get to the house. So I personally okay with the current design, unless Bob sees there's a way to,
He's trying to point something out to me, but I'm,
No, I just, in the past, we've made a very strong point that we don't want any construction within 25 feet of the
Absolutely.
wetlands. And I understand the crossing scenario completely.
Yeah.
But to try to stay within that requirement that we've set up, I think that something has to be done with the retaining wall, at the very least, to keep the slope out of that 25 foot or as far away as you possibly can from it.
So you're thinking about an extension of the retaining wall to give a little more room?
And where are you seeing this detail, Bob? I'm just not seeing it. Sorry.
Here's the wetlands flag right here.
Yeah.
And here's the grading right here. There's a
Yep.
20 scale drawing. So the wetlands flag from the road actually is 15 feet
Yep.
right now. And, you know,
Okay.
as I say in the past,
Yep.
and I'm not trying to make it impossible.
No,
right?
and in retrospect, I mean, we could definitely do a much better job at trying to split the difference between the two as well.
That's why I'm asking, and I
I
think we
think,
need to ask you to put a wall in or something. You know, I appreciate the fact we're not trying to limit you from going into your property or anything else. But we have to try to be consistent and,
Certainly.
it's been our
I
policy.
believe, you know, I've never been before you folks before. I believe I was unaware of the 25. I didn't know that when I laid this out. So, I mean, I'll definitely take heed to it. I'll do the best I can do to split the difference between the two. I mean, that's gonna be the best scenario and get it out and, you know, do what I can to minimize whatever we're gonna do in the 25.
And I think you're gonna have to think about a wall,
Absolutely.
straighten that wall up, be a little further down there. And
Definitely take a look at it.
we will have to look at that area again for mitigation.
Mhm.
Because it's work within that 25-foot buffer zone, which we don't allow. So it's just like a wetlands crossing as far as I'm concerned. And
Okay.
it's, all right?
Mhm.
And this, I think your well is where? Still,
It's in the front by the driveway.
yeah, so right here, so you still need the same detail around the well?
Yep, spoilers pit. Same as the other one.
Yeah, some kind of sump pit for the
And
pump testing.
you probably got the same thing with the foundation drains, or the not foundation, roof drains,
And the signs,
and the signs.
Same general comments as well.
Right, yeah.
a lot of signs.
The house is outside the buffer, isn't it?
Well, a little bit. This is
Oh, yeah.
right there.
Never gets that easy.
Now, you say that there's, all the trees that are shown, or all the trees that are on the site are shown in the drawings now? In red?
Yes, and most of this is field. There's a
So
tree
this-
line. Most of this particular lot is field. These are trees that are existing in here. These are the ones that we were going to plant to help with lot number 6, but obviously we're gonna be getting rid of most of those. But obviously we gotta do some tree planting down in here because of the disturbance for these right in here.
That and also the, within the 25-foot buffer.
I would also relabel your current limit of work as the permanent limit of work.
Okay.
And what you're gonna have.
And then I'll show you an AUL
And-
type of thing, yeah.
And you're gonna have, you're gonna have twos around the wood line, you're gonna be allowed to cut twice a year, keep it open if the future owner wishes.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be called the limited limit of work,
Okay.
or limited use limit of work.
Next meeting?
You got it? No, I just, each set of drawings has to have a detail for the erosion control as well,
Okay.
all right?
Alright.
In case you have two different contractors.
Well, I mean, it's a 2-sheet drawing set. I mean,
Okay,
but I'll put it on there. That's fine. What's that?
Ready for you'll be ready for the next meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make a motion to continue to April 18th at 7:45.
Second, you have 1 week.
No problem.
Brandon, do they have a, plot plan for 31 Canada Lane, do you know?
Yeah, only if Wanda pulled it. You might as well give,
Give them this?
well, not give it to him, but let him see it.
Send it right down.
Different than this, the ones that are here?
No. don't think so.
I don't know.
Was that the plan that we were looking at on site?
Yes,
Then it's
yes.
all right.
Told me to draw it up.
That's
You
the
can,
regular.
you can have yours.
You can have yours back.
December,
Okay, all right.
December 20th.
Receive the cemetery. Okay, received.
Stamping.
These are some pictures that Brandon asked me to take. Now, the reason I'm asking to do this is because I have a bad leg and I want it to have some flat surface just around the house. And this pertains to the old section of the house, the original. I don't know if you can see that here. I can pass it down. Here's the lake. And the proposed addition, three-season porch. And it slopes down right to the base of the house. So what I wanted to do was 7 feet from the house. Here's where it levels off to the front. I wanted to build a small wall, about 2 feet at this point, 2 feet high, and then come around to the boulder and then just continue it on over here. Keep, 7 feet clearing around it, so I can walk around. There's a doorway here, a back door we had to put in. And then I wanted to put a set of stairs going up. And these stairs here are made out of granite slabs. So I have a mason who's fixing them up so that I don't trip. He's keeping them about 7 inches. And then I wanted to do, this was the existing walkway to the neighbor's house with my son Corey. And then I wanted to put a little walkway going up from here to this here.
Just extend the walkway.
There is no walkway, it's all grass.
Well,
and-
extend the.
And what's gonna
Yeah,
be,
yeah, I wanted to
flatten
extend
it
that down,
Right,
just for my safety.
He wants a flat area to circle around that one side of the house, so he's not always on an angle because of his thing.
explain it down there too.
Stone walkway going through the grass, it's a little more.
Here's the proposed
It might be
three-season porch. It's all level
There's no
here.
real disturbance to that,
When
is
we
there?
get to this point, the corner of the house,
We're
it
doing the
pitches down
pre-construction meeting.
like so,
Put it on writing.
right, and it pitches down right to the
A
house.
little too much, we need to just
And I'm afraid I'm gonna trip, so I wanted to put a wall
talk to him.
approximately 7 feet here, 7 feet here, with a set of stairs. And this wall is only about 2 feet, maybe 2.5 at most, high at
So
this
it's like a
corner.
retaining wall.
Yeah, just to give me this flat area, because we put a door in the back, we had to put a door in the back. Because we only had one door, and we had to change all the windows, a bunch of stuff. But anyway, I wanted to be able to come out onto this flat land, go up to the steps, and walk. This is all grass now, but I wanted to put some walks in. And the landscaper said, why don't we tear it? So he'll put a granite slab, go about 6 feet,
Like a terrace almost.
yeah, and then terrace it up one more slab. I don't know the elevation, the numbers don't mean anything to me, but I'm gonna say it's probably about 8 feet from here to here, height, if that much. So he was gonna terrace this up and give me a little flat walking area till I got up to here, and these stairs here to the parking area.
Terrace it up.
Yeah, he's gonna terrace
Make
this
big
up.
steps.
Right.
So it'd be like, actually, this is 480, this is 486, so it's 6 feet.
6 feet, okay. I just learned something.
I know these stairs are steep.
Yeah, but they were all different heights.
Yeah.
And I trip all the time, so I had a mason come in and he started that.
So, what grades are gonna be?
This will be the same grade as it is here. So what's that? 477?
477.
So it'll be 477 all the way around. Cause this pitches right to the edge of the house, so the water's going right there.
Yeah, the grade at the house right now is 478.
Okay,
So there'd
but in
be-
the front is 477.
Correct.
So we're gonna dig this down and keep it 477 all the way around.
Will you have to put in drainage then, because now this is gonna change the way the water's gonna come?
I don't think we'll need to. We're only taking 2
Going into
feet
the
out.
ground,
This is all grass. This is all grass right now. And then this, you had wanted me to put trap rock over here. So we were gonna trap rock this whole section, 7 feet trap rock, and just put a few
Okay.
walking stones in there. And we were gonna put 6 inches of trap rock all the way around here. And this here area would remain grass.
No issues? Joyce?
No,
It's basically a landscaping
so this should
cleanup.
be
Looks good to me.
Good.
would
So do we
be
need a minor
an
field change?
amendment?
Minor field change.
And there's one other
Now,
thing.
do you think it's worth,
Oh, I don't know.
do you think it's significant enough, because if you do an amendment, then he's
No,
good
gotta
to
refile.
advertise,
No, no.
notify.
Minor field
So
change.
minor field change, right?
He's now, there's one more thing.
Okay.
What about these boulders?
Well-
Is there boulders?
I was talking to Jim, the contractor. When he puts the addition on over here, this tree's got a branch that's gonna hang over the house. Can I cut that branch? Can I cut that branch right here?
One branch, not the
I'm
tree.
gonna,
I don't have a
no,
problem.
not the tree, but this tree's probably, what, 40, 50 feet?
Is this the maple
The
tree?
maple tree?
There's already one that's snapped,
The one that snapped, we gotta get rid of that.
right? And you got one more
And
that
there's,
you wanna,
there's one right close to it. It's about this big
as long as you
around.
don't cut down the whole tree.
No, I'm not cutting the tree, but it's hanging over the house.
You're limiting a tree for safety.
It's gonna
That's
land
the
on the
kind of
house.
thing that you come in here to ask for.
Yeah,
That's all I wanna do.
Yes, sir.
good.
Great, thanks, guys.
I mean, we have to,
With the caveat that because it's a minor field change and all minor field changes have to be made in writing, have Paul send me an email and Wanda an email saying what you're gonna do, can I explain it?
Mhm.
So that she can print it out, put it in the file, so when it comes time for the certificate of compliance, we'll remember.
Okay. I'll give Paul a call tomorrow, not that he'll call me back tomorrow, but
I know.
we know Paul.
You're lucky he picks up. He's a busy man.
Yeah, no, we'll get to Paul and I'll have him do that.
what's this?
What's a boulder?
That's just a big old boulder. This part of the house was built in 1945 and it was all hand dug by a fellow
They
by the
didn't
name
move
of
it?
John Knighton. No, it's too big to move. Well, that's the top of it. We don't know how deep it goes.
But your wall's gonna be on it, you're taking
The
it,
wall's gonna come into one side of it and start on the other side of it.
so the boulder's gonna sit there.
Yeah, it's gonna sit right
So you're
there.
never gonna walk over the top
We
of that?
can't move it. I have nowhere to put it.
And you're not gonna walk over the top, it's gonna be sticking out of the ground?
There's enough room here. There's like 2.5 feet I can
So you
walk
can
around
squeeze
the
through.
boulder. I
We
can
could
walk
show 'em how
around
to
the boulder.
jackhammer that off.
Yeah, we could blast it,
Don't
Yeah.
do it.
and then the house would.
All right,
Yeah, do
I
it
just
before you
felt
fix the
that
house.
what he was asking
Yeah.
for was a little too
yeah,
much for
it's
me
easier to do it this way.
give permission.
What's the retaining wall gonna be made out of?
It's gonna be made out of stone. About 4-inch stone.
Man with a hammer on an excavator, make that rock go away quick.
Can't get an excavator down there. The only opening we have is between here, the base of that stair, and the corner of the house, which is about 8 feet.
Bill Ahern,
Hmm?
We're gonna-
Central Mass Rock Splitting. He does it with it. They drill it.
I don't wanna
Yeah.
split the rock.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanna keep it? Oh, all right.
All right, I think we're all set.
Do we have to move on that minor field change? I think we do.
Go ahead.
Okay, make a motion to approve the minor field change with the description that he is going to send us.
Second.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I will give Paul a call tomorrow.
Ernie Horn Drive.
The coffee can I say by yet?
You're way,
Way behind schedule.
I failed you.
I can't blame you though.
I failed you. Chris
How you
Levin
pay?
was involved.
For the record on this one, I'm a direct abutter, so I'm out.
You're out.
I'm out.
You have to step down.
Step down?
Yep.
You're in the
I'm
audience.
stepping down. I'll sit next to them.
Where's that cold air coming from?
Thank you. I keep telling you, the windows open.
Yep. How's Andy as a neighbor?
It's my mother's house.
Yes.
I like him so far.
He's just fine.
Just wait till he comes up here.
Apologies for our ignorance with this procedure, or proceedings, I should say, because I've never built anything. And essentially what my mother is looking to do at her property is to put a driveway in, well, to pave the driveway, which is a right-of-way that she has to the property. As it is right now, it's a pretty disaster with all of the water coming down and the mud settling there and then running into the garage, all the sand and everything that's going there now. And
It's hard to plow.
it is very challenging to plow.
I had to build a bridge.
So with that being said, we're just simply looking to pave the driveway in whatever is going to be the easiest way to do it, that is going to make it work for the conservation committee as far as any types of drainage. These right now are some preliminary drawings that engineers done, that some engineers have drawn up. We were a little shocked at the drawing that we got from the engineering firm when we received it a couple weeks ago, as Andy and my mother walked the entire project with the engineers and explained that we were looking to pave the entire right-of-way and not just in front of her house. So we are currently in a little bit of a negotiation with them as far as what they need to redo. With that being said, they've obviously proposed this massive drainage system that would take up nearly half of her yard, and we're hoping that that's not something that would be a requirement, and that there might be some ways to think of something that could make the drainage work and not obviously disrupt the lake, because we're not looking to do that. But
Maybe first name, please.
So I apologize, Keith Reardon.
And I'm Sharon Reardon, the homeowner.
REA Reardon?
Reardon.
I remember there was a problem when that was being constructed. We had some issues and I had to go down there a couple of times. And then there's a swale to the left-hand side going down to the lake. I think that was required when we, yeah.
It's
That was
still
an
there.
issue when we were approving the thing to begin with.
Is that off that one?
Yes.
No, that house was built in '97.
Might be thinking next door.
Yeah, it might be mine you're thinking of.
Oh, we
No.
remember you.
No.
Yeah, yeah, you remember me.
Yeah, I remember you.
Charest, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that one. That's
Okay,
one
may-
further up the hill.
That's the
Okay.
other,
That's up at
that's the
the
other
top.
abutter.
That's up at the very top, and they own the
They-
left
they-
and the right side up
Right,
at the
it
top.
wasn't a new construction, but they did some major renovations on the house back
Well, that was,
8 years ago.
was that one where they tore down the little camp and then they had a tree that they had to get a crane or something?
Yes,
That's
I
not
remember
what we're
that.
here to talk about.
But, well, I'm just trying to locate myself.
I'm already way over time.
I'm-
The guys are
This looks
telling me I'm
mostly
not doing a
like-
good
like
job.
An engineering
I just want a simple
exercise.
driveway.
But
I
it's
can-
gonna be a sluice way.
Yeah, I
right
can
down.
understand your reluctance to put that in. It's a lot of stone taking up a lot of yard. Whether it can be done another way, I don't know, that's really more of an engineering question. But I can understand how if you do pave it, and the water no longer goes into your garage, right? It's gonna go somewhere else, where's it gonna go? It's either gonna go down through your side yard or down into Andy's yard.
Give
That's
it to
where
Andy.
goes now.
Yeah.
Right, which is
I
something
feel bad for
you
him.
wanna try to avoid. You're not allowed to increase, water flow onto a neighbor's neighbor's property, it's not very nice and it's against the law, right?
Mhm.
So I suppose this is this particular engineer's solution. I don't have any better suggestions, but this guy way over on the left might.
I'm still trying to understand it.
Me too.
You basically wanna pave the whole red area, am I getting that right?
Yeah, exactly, so the red area is what we would wanna be paving except for,
There's a
this
cutout.
little inlet right here is not her land.
Okay,
So
so
that
it's squared
wouldn't,
off.
that wouldn't be paved there. This,
Goes to
area right here is where there's a septic, her septic tank is right here. It actually, we would pave over the septic tank. The tank was put in by Charlie, who's here with us, and so it's able to be paved over. This was a in-kind project that was completed several months ago.
I'd rather move.
And again, they only drew the plan with the pavement to
area.
here instead of it going up to the mouth of Horn Drive.
Well, right now it's a mud pit, right?
It's an absolute mud pit.
Do you wanna see
So
a picture?
basically,
I've-
it's a mud pit all the way down to here, and then all of this area right here is all crushed stone that Andy has going down to his property down here.
Yeah, there's a spring that, came in from the side, and I literally, my vehicle sunk into my driveway when I came back from a vacation. It took me 20 minutes to get my SUV out, and I was able to, and I had decking, and I literally engineered a bridge that I can go over it so I don't sink.
There was, if
It's
I'm
right in
thinking of
front
the
of my
right place,
garage.
and I'm not sure I am, but there was, did Pearson's ever own that?
Peterson,
Pearson, no,
Peterson's.
Peterson?
Peterson.
That was nowhere in Christie, and then before that it was another Peterson.
Yeah,
Cause I don't know if I'm thinking of the right place or not.
It's, if you take go to the end of
Yeah.
one where it comes to Singletary, take
Yeah.
a right.
Yeah, and down,
Yeah, not the one all the way at the bottom, it's the second one, it's the second to last.
yeah.
Where's the
Tissue
water
there?
hit it?
Do you have a
The whole,
tissue
does the
there?
whole thing get hit with water? I mean, I know it's mud, I've
I
seen.
mean, yeah, when it rains, obviously,
when
there's
it-
a lot of runoff that's coming
Water
down
goes
Let me check
from
my pocket.
sort of the cul-de-sac of Horn Drive, and then
I got one in
there's
my
runoff
pocket.
that come from the steep grade of the hill. There's basically a
across
whole
the
area of
driveway.
runoff that pours out onto
Okay.
the driveway and then just creates sort of a whole pool of.
and the whole pool
I
is.
think there's
water.
also
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
that comes from the
And
south side
is
right
where the
into the
well
lot
is.
too. And I think that's what it was
And
washing
It's just,
out
yeah,
there
it's
before.
runoff coming in
This
from
is
the grade
coming
of the
down
hill.
the driveway.
How about the
So-
idea of
I mean, it's
infiltration
just,
strips?
and
Well,
then there's some other pictures here.
It's nothing that we're
This is the
gonna
bridge
build a
I had to
item on.
build
No,
where the
We
spring
can-
is
We can
on
tell
the
we don't have a
side.
problem with them paving the driveway.
It's
They
right
put
in
up
the
erosion
friggin'
controls.
That's a good start, because, you know.
I don't know what, I don't know what to do. I don't, nobody would
Yeah.
wanna
They would've
live
wasted a
like
lot
that.
of
Yeah.
money.
No, it's,
So it's still worth it, they came.
Yeah,
I don't have a problem with paving it. I'm just thinking, could you add some riprap or something on the side to stop the water without going crazy on engineering?
well, I
you're
don't
not
know.
gonna stop
I
the
just,
water, you're
Not
gonna give it
stop it,
someplace to
but
go.
That I had to do, and
it's,
I
that's
put
why the swale was there to
other,
begin with, but,
with the-
you
Yeah,
know,
no, I
there's
know.
a
so that
lot
I
of
can
water.
just go
I mean, it's-
over.
But right now it's
You're
a-
not an engineer and neither am I, so.
What's Charlie
could
got
play
for
one on TV.
recommendation?
Charlie,
What's that? What was the question, sorry?
What's Charlie got for
You
recommendation?
have to
Charlie, what
identify
would you
himself.
do? Charlie was gonna do the work for us.
yes, yeah.
He has to identify himself.
Construction, I've been doing it for 50 years, paving and stuff like that, drainage, septic systems and everything. And I would put stone along the lower side of the driveway leading down to slow the flow of water down. And stone at the end. Right now, all the water is still going down there, no matter what, it's been going down here for 30, 40 years. This engineered plan is utterly ridiculous. I mean, this would be thousands and thousands of dollars, plus there'd be also problems of retaining it so it doesn't wash into to the lake, if it was put in. And this is just a paved driveway, they've already just paved the road going in there that could have had some issues with, wetlands, and they just paved that, and, there was no issues, there was nothing done for any control of water coming off the road that they just paved leading in there. And, this here is basically putting riprap of what they just talked about on the side of the driveway to slow the water down on heavy
All along
The-
the side.
The
drainage.
the downside of the driveway.
Yes,
And at the end of it,
right.
where it abuts, Mr.
All they're asking us to do is to get paved, right?
Now,
My
they
sug-
have to file a notice of
Well,
intent or something, don't
My
they?
suggestion, why I wanted them to come in, they've had a kind of a hard time with an engineer to wrap his head around this. So I wanted them to come in and talk to you people to see if they absolutely needed an engineered plan to pave this drive, or can they pave it with a good plan from a contractor? I don't know enough about it.
I think that
And
this
I
is-
don't know enough about the town on how to even,
Yeah, this is a
approach.
lot of new impervious that's gonna be shedding down
A
towards the
lot of
lake.
water.
I don't see how it can be done without an engineered plan myself. Whether this is the best engineered plan or not, I don't know, but I think you're gonna need an engineered plan.
You would hate to put in something and not have it work, and if it's the place I'm thinking, I mean, I live at the bottom of a hill too, and there's a lot of new houses, and you should see what it's done to me, 'cause I get it all at the bottom, with all of that blacktop, and it doesn't go on the ground, and now comes down the street, so you take a look at the length of that driveway,
comes right into my garage. That's
but
where
it'll
it's coming.
be more of it coming with it blacktopped.
It's, you know, it's the same amount of water, whether it's gravel and muck hole like it is right now, or paved. The only thing, of course, the water would flow a little bit faster being pavement, of which riprap was put on the sides and at the end would slow it down of real heavy surges. But the water is the same. The water is not going in the ground when it comes down that
It
driveway.
is if there's mud.
It runs down the ground.
Well,
I mean, excuse me, down the driveway.
A compacted gravel drive or road is gonna be, I think just like you said, it's gonna be about as impervious, but it's just gonna slow a little bit, be a little bit slower, but it's also gonna potentially rut and cause sedimentation, whereas pavement is gonna go faster, and then once it hits the end of the pavement, then it's gonna rut.
But he's proposing riprap and other forms of stone to
Right.
slow it, and you're not gonna stop it, but to slow it.
I'm dealing with the whole problem now down at my end because from it being driven on so often, it's all fines, so it's all silt. And I put in 4 or 5 triaxles of 3/4 and drainage stone and just to catch the silt.
That was under your other notice of intent.
That
I'm
was on the
sure.
second
Yeah,
one. That was after it washed out with cause I planted grass seed, so we had to get the hurricane naturally.
Conceptually, we have no problem.
As far as what Charlie had mentioned with, you know, doing the pavement, having the aspects, whatever it's called, to slow the water down and everything, do you feel that we would be able to proceed with paving and having a reputable contractor doing the work, or do we need to file a notice of intent?
You need to file, definitely, right? If it's within the 200 feet of the lake, you need to file.
Yeah, there's no getting around that.
But are you
We're
asking,
we
Yeah.
just don't know
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Sure,
are you
Okay.
asking if you can file and pave by adding stone and not doing an engineering plan?
That's what I meant, not doing an engineered plan. Whatever, not doing the engineered
I
plan.
think you have to have, because of the volume of water that's that close to the lake and going down, the entire work is well within the buffer zone. You know, a suggestion, rather than an open riprap swale, if you, I really think for personally, okay, for everybody concerned, your neighbors, yourself, and everything else, it's one thing to, as Charlie's suggesting, to control the water as it runs down the driveway, try to slow it down and so forth, but it's still gonna go, and at some point, you have to move the water someplace. You can either dump it on your neighbor's yard and say, too bad, okay? Or you gotta control it, otherwise it's just gonna back up into your garage again. Now, rather than a riprap swale, if you put a catch basin in and put a pipe down to a settling pond similar to what they've got here, that way you haven't got a riprap swale running all the way down everything's underground until you get down closer to the lake where it's coming up into some sort of rain garden type.
Yeah, you could make
Thing.
that into a garden,
Uh,
like where that pepper bush is.
Yeah,
Then, the water would percolate up and run back towards the lake. But at least you're controlling the water, because you, even though the water runs downhill all the time, okay? But once you take from a gravel driveway and make it paved, you've changed the whole complexion. You're directing it more than ever was before. So you're responsible for the water that you're directing.
and then I have one question, is there any way, cause, I mean, this is new to me too, of planting, aren't there other types of plants or species that you can put in there, to help when you have that kind of water, to slow it down too? If
No.
it is going to,
You don't
no,
wanna
you
put,
can't.
you don't wanna put plants in there. You wanna put
Okay.
stone or riprap
Okay,
or check
I
dams.
just don't know, so I'm asking.
Things of that nature is what you really wanna do. Plants aren't gonna really
Okay.
hold up. And, but I concur, I think you need a plan.
Okay.
And you'll have to file, and I don't think you're restricted to what's this engineer has suggested. I mean, I think you're allowed to, and have Charlie help you, make a recommendation to the engineer, let's see if this will work or that'll work.
Yep.
Okay.
Versus, I don't see any reason you have to have a riprap swale down through your yard like that.
Okay,
Sounds good, and thank you for your time.
thank you.
Sorry it took so
I really
long.
appreciate
Good luck.
it.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
No worries, you as well.
No problem. No problem. Good luck.
You all set?
I think we have. I think we've dealt with all the other ones.
Make a
I think
motion,
too.
make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.